it will also be available in the CSP Toolkit, and I'll provide a link on our LinkedIn group as well. So with that introduction, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jim Witry at Rackspace to take us through and talk to us a little bit about the Rackspace hosted virtual desktop platform.
Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate the hosting of this webinar by Citrix, our strategic alliance partners, and look forward to having a good conversation with the CSAs on the line. So we'll start off with reviewing our hosted virtual desktop offering for you, and at the end of that, we'll be introducing another one of our strategic alliance partners, or basically one of our partners in our channel community, a CyberLink ASP, as kind of a reference and testimonial on how they work with us. So with that, we'll get started. The objective today, the engagement objective from our standpoint, is to help you capture net new hosted desktop revenue and hopefully help you accelerate your time to market. Some simple facts about Rackspace you may or may not be aware. We currently have 9 data centers. Those 9 data centers are 7 located here in the U.S., and then we've got a data center in UK, in the United Kingdom, and 1 in Hong Kong. We anticipate within the next 9 to 10 months we'll be bringing on 2 additional data centers, 1 in the Australian marketplace and 1 in the Oregon marketplace. The Oregon new data center will be a 40 megawatt data center and continue to keep up with our growth that we're seeing from the marketplace. Today, Rackspace has approximately 4,300 employees. You know, we service in excess of 82,000 servers. Today, our revenues are a little north of $1 billion, and we service about 60% of the Fortune 100. I know for many of the CSAs that may not be an important fact, but we think it is. And to date, we have over 180,000 customers. One of the things about Rackspace you may or may not know is we are in a leadership position relative to the hosting, and in the cloud space, we're number 2. And you can see here from the Magic Quadrant from Gartner where we position against some of the competitors in the marketplace. And, you know, we differentiate with fanatical support, which you'll hear quite regularly in this presentation. We really believe there are a lot of people that can host, a lot of people doing things in the cloud. We differentiate with our fanatical support, which are live support individuals to help you in both creating demand as well as servicing the end customer with that support. Some of the key drivers for our virtual desktops really is an opportunity to help deliver on-demand desktops to users anytime, anywhere. Much of this material you guys are very familiar with. It's really kind of positioning the virtual desktop marketplace, and this talks about some of the activities associated with that. So I won't spend a lot of time on these slides since you're Citrix partners, you're very familiar with the size of the marketplace. Again, just showing quickly the momentum that's going and gaining in the marketplace. One of the things that Rackspace has seen specifically with Citrix as a partner is the actual momentum of number of people coming to Rackspace interested in virtual desktop or hosted virtual desktop opportunities, ranging from both end-user demand and partner demand that is growing very, very rapidly, and we're seeing much more attention being paid by most of the IT managers. Obviously, you understand the good fit as to where it is with the CIOs, CSOs, IT managers, and the user community. One of the experiences that Rackspace is having is we're finding a lot of rogue IT or departmental desire to bring in virtual desktops or hosted virtual desktops into their initiative, even if it isn't fully embraced within the IT department. So virtual desktops in kind of their standard format, you know, are making it much better for most of these companies. But even with the virtual desktop adoption, you know, there's a number of pain points that still exist when it does reside in an IT department. Obviously, IT still has to maintain the hardware. They've got all the cost of data center management, procurement, installation, performance, the issues that most of you offset for most IT departments. So hosted virtual desktops, we really believe, is an opportunity and an equation for success. and really creating flexible and ease for them to deal with the situation, the desktop and application virtualization, and really coming up with an amplified virtual desktop. So by working with a hosted virtual desktop, we accelerate time to market, reduces CapEx in the fact that you can actually run an operating expense model with us. Lower data center cost, I mean, because of our magnitude and the scope of the partners we deal with, right, our costs for running a data center are typically lower. We also have the opportunity with our hybrid model for you to actually take advantage of many of the cloud virtualization opportunities as well as dedicated opportunities in our hybrid model. So ours really is focused on being able to reduce downtime due to hardware failures, to accelerate your time to market. And typically an installation for us is anywhere from a 15 to 20-day time frame to have a complete installation turned over to you as a CSA partner to deal with the application layers above the stack. So hosted virtual desktops by Rackspace, we really deliver basically the infrastructure. And, we have an in-place virtual desktop infrastructure for faster deployments that I mentioned before. We'll talk a little deeper about that in some of our reference architectures. We have a seamless portfolio, too, which I think is very important for many of the people as you're building out your business and need to scale. So we have a dedicated environment opportunity, we have cloud environment opportunities, and we have the ability to connect the two. And with some of our new open standards, we actually are doing some work now with on-premise to basically end up with an on-premise opportunity all the way through the cloud. We also, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, really are known for our fanatical support. One of the things about dealing with Rackspace is you will end up with an account team that actually will become an extension of your capability. The other is with the end customers, you don't really have to worry about losing any of your personal reputation as a trusted advisor because we back the play with the end user completely. You also will have the opportunity to have choices of different levels of support, those things you'd like us to support and those things you'd like to support yourself. And we do have industry-leading SLAs. So one of the questions I know for many of the CSAs is, what's Rackspace's role? What is the CSA partner's role? And this is an opportunity to try and show you what we do. Rackspace is managing the infrastructure. Realistically, the desktop virtualization and the software, we looked at that to be done by our channel partners in the CSA community. So you would install the desktop software, install patches and applications on the servers relative to those applications. You would still manage your Zen server and hypervisors with us, by managed links into our system. And we've got the capability for you to support all the virtual apps that are associated with the activity. So again, the solution details, as I mentioned earlier, you choose your hypervisor. So obviously Zen Server and Zen Desktop, you've got the ability to build complementary solutions. With that, we do support Hyper-V as well for those of you that find your customers kind of demanding that in combination with Citrix. And we've got a very good relationship between Citrix, Microsoft, and Rackspace. And then choosing your platform. Depending on your security and compliance issues, you may decide to do a private cloud or a white label opportunity. You may decide to use public cloud for both its utility pricing and or its scalability. And then in many cases, you may decide to use a hybrid model where you take advantage of compliance and security and issues in a private environment and then burst out to the cloud for different workloads. Customizable architecture, this is just a very simple reference architecture showing kind of what is possible. But one of the things I really would like to highlight when we talk about a customizable architecture, when you partner with Rackspace, our internal support teams and SEs as well as our sales teams really function as an extension of your scenarios. You have the ability to refer and or resell our products. but you get full access to our sales resources, full access to our account management teams, and full access to our SEs. So we believe we've got the best hosted virtual desktop option out in the marketplace, and this is just a an internal document that really kind of shows what you gain with the Rackspace hosted environment, some of what you have when you do self-hosting, some of the other hosting providers, and then what happens with probably the biggest competitor in the cloud, Amazon, and their web services. One of the things we pitch quite regularly at Rackspace is, if you go with Amazon, you end up with kind of a vendor lock-in, and I know for many of you that may or may not be in your best interest. So a real quick case study. I just want to talk about a real-life customer success story here at Rackspace. And again, this is probably on the very high end of the scale for most CSAs. But we had basically a Fortune 500 company in the food processing industry that came to us to consolidate over 1,200 applications into a hosted virtual desktop application. They experienced a number of challenges relative to, moving the 1,200 applications, et cetera. They were working with one of the large, computer services companies out in the marketplace and found that they weren't very flexible and weren't able to get it accomplished. So we basically gave them an OS-agnostic capability. We reduced their IT operational costs through a complete TCO analysis. It was much easier for them in a hosted environment for their provisioning. And actually we're able to show a true decrease in their application deployment cost and time frame, and maintain security aspects that match their need. Some of the configuration details, you can look here, right? It was basically 1,200 apps. It was 22 Zen app servers, 39 Zen desktop servers. We used a NetApp 6000 series, which is kind of their top of the line relative to a storage scenario because of kind of the magnitude and capacity. And we did it in a managed co-location service, which is one of our service levels. And currently, they're approximately at the 40,000 seats and still growing. So again, here's a reference architecture, and so you've got Dev, you've got XenApp segment, HVD segment, and a management segment, and we've got Brian Cadell, one of our SEs, online. So if we want, we can get into a little bit deeper dive on the reference architectures. But Rackspace tries to maintain keeping our reference architectures and what we're recommending to the marketplace consistent with that our partners at Citrix present out to the marketplace. So I'll stop there for a moment and we'll jump into kind of the partner program overview. And I'm going through this fairly quickly to hopefully be able to have a longer period of time for our Q&A. So next is really talking about our partner program overview. I think for many of you on the call, I don't know how familiar you are with our Citrix relationship. Our Citrix relationship started approximately 2 years ago, and basically we launched our hosted virtual desktop with Citrix help at Summit and Synergy, not the last one, but the one the year before. And at the time we launched, we were actually somewhat surprised because with the power of Citrix and the fact that the brand name recognition for Rackspace, subsequent to being at the event, we received approximately 2,000 end-user leads coming to us and asking us about the VDI solution from Rackspace. And I think it's important to note that Rackspace doesn't have a VDI solution. We basically rely very much on the Citrix partner ecosystem, and we took those leads, and originally we had a demo up that we were doing a 30-day demo. Today what we do is we take all leads that come in from our end user community looking for VDI, and we actually send those leads directly to those partners that host with us today. And you'll get a little bit more information on that when Chris Lantrip talks about our relationship with CyberLink. One of the other things I think is very important to note for those of you that are trying to pick your hosting partner if you decide to go with hosted virtual desktops, is something we're very proud of, and that was being recognized by Microsoft as Hosting Partner of the Year. And those of you that are working with Citrix and Microsoft, you know about Windows Server 2012, some of the evolutions that's taking place with the Microsoft solutions to support Citrix in the area. So we're very proud of that, and I think it's another validation point on what our service is like and what our fanatical support is able to provide. I mentioned earlier, we really believe that Rackspace can be an extension to your sales team, a little different than most channel models. Obviously, we look to you as an extension of the Rackspace sales team if you partner with us, but us basically being a resource to you to extend your capabilities and resources with our experts within the business. And those partners that have worked with us, I think they rely quite heavily on some of our expertise, even in areas that may or may not be a standard expertise for them. So, having trouble transitioning to the next slide, so bear with us. We appear to be locked up. I apologize for the dead. I'll apologize for the dead air.
Just 1 second.
We're going to put you on hold 1 second. Sorry about that. So one of the things that I'd like to highlight here is today Rackspace has a partner network worldwide that is in excess of 6,000. I apologize, I hadn't had a chance to update the slide. But I think it's important to note that, that we are not over-distributed relative to partners. Those 6,000 partners include a large number of what I would refer to as agents and or referral agents that are sending business to us. So our partners really address multiple segments worldwide. The virtual desktop integration partners is a very critical component to our business, but you can see some of the other areas that we actually have focused partners in. So we're really basically looking at this whole innovation of the cloud, changes to the model, and really trying to make sure that we've got a partner ecosystem that is helping us with this whole technology shift to outsourced, hosted, and or cloud activity, really looking for partners to help us scale and become experts in the evolution that's taking place right now for the cloud. Next, and I know for most people it's kind of, so what's in it for me and what are kind of the margins and or pricing, and we'll get to pricing a little later. This is basically a page out of our partner agreement, but it really shows you the different tiers that we have in our partner agreement, and there are actually 4 tiers, typical to many of the others in the industry. We have a member tier, which actually would benefit you with a commission structure and or discount structure of 5%. And ranging all the way up to the 15%, which is the 4th column over. We have a whole series of other services and capabilities that actually are accrued in a point basis for you. But the simplest way to look at this is the 75,000 points down to the 500 points really equate to a monthly recurring revenue dollar value over a 12-month look back. And you move up these scenarios. And as you can see, at a gold level or at our platinum level, you are actually remunerated on your monthly recurring revenue for a period of 24 months up to 36 months in the platinum level. And so this is really kind of how you're benefited from either a commission or a discount structure. The thing that's really nice about this too is the commission and or discount structure is after best negotiated price working with our SEs and our account teams. So this truly does become a benefit back to you. Many of our partners actually pass through this discount to their end customers. Others actually take advantage of it as a margin enhancement. Some of the tools that we provide, and I think it's important to note that to help you in growing your business, I mentioned earlier the leads, but we also have a partner portal that allows you to register your leads, allows you to go in and actually garner additional information about our products and services. We actually have a hosted virtual desktop landing page which generates leads that would come back out to you as a partner. We also allow our partners to actually put up their own positioning of their company so that all of our internal team has access to what your business model is. So if you're a CSA hosted virtual desktops in the construction space, if we had a specific construction opportunity that came through, they could actually search our internal mechanism and make sure the lead goes to the right partner. So in this, again, you can see some of the methodologies. You've got, a dashboard that will also, as a leader of your company, will give you kind of your compensation and a dashboard of the different opportunities, and to be able to see exactly how you're earning your incentives. You'll also have in the dashboard an ability to track where you are in that tiering from a member through a platinum, kind of what activities are taking place with your business with us, be available at any time. And some of the other partner benefits that you will receive from being a partner with us are, from a sales standpoint, you will end up with a designated channel account manager. This is an individual that manages not only the relationship between the two companies, but working with you on joint go-to-market plans, working with you on basically a strategy, making sure that you're getting your fair share of leads that come through our system, and really are kind of your liaison back into our Rackspace sales team. Again, you get all of the sales resources I mentioned before, access to our sales team, access to our systems engineers to help you with building reference architectures, quotes, and or activity for your end customers. We have a training and enablement team that is also available to bring you on board. And right now we are continually looking at our compensation and discount structure. Believe we're kind of one of the leaders in that area today, but constantly looking to refine that to make sure that we are giving you discounts and compensation to match your effort. Marketing is really an important aspect, so you will have the ability to do joint develop marketing materials, taking some of our material and being able to use it, the opportunity for microsite development, and basically one of the things that's not highlighted here that we're actually spending a lot of time and energy on is really our training. And one of the things we're very proud of, we currently have, for many companies as they're learning how to deal with the cloud, we have a class study curriculum called Cloud U, and it really is not a Rackspace commercial, but it's a 10-module training capability that you can use with your sales teams and or even customers, and letting them understand how to evolve their business into the cloud. And at the end of the certification, your team, if it were a salesperson, would actually be awarded a certificate for completing the Cloud U, that they can actually use in their LinkedIn update or however they decide to use it. Pricing, probably one of the things that most of you as CSAs are very interested in. We really believe that Rackspace is a competitive alternative to you doing this in-house, or if you wanted to have a white box environment where you could actually kind of manage it yourself. But from a cost per seat standpoint, pure infrastructure, on the very low-end, smaller platforms, we're somewhere around the $35 range, but at scale, and scale being 1,000 seats up to, say, 3,000 seats, we've actually had reference architectures that have gotten us down to somewhere around the $10 price. And I know that's a sweet spot everybody's targeted for, and like I say, at scale we're there. We're not yet there on kind of the low end. And this is basically infrastructure only, not incorporating the licenses, et cetera. By the way, that will be your responsibility for the licensing of both Citrix and some of the Microsoft stack as we go forward. For those of you that would like to visit our Rackspace site, we do, like I say, have an HVD landing page available, so you can take a look at that. One of the major changes to our website now is that website is driving traffic that we then send back out to our partners so that they can actually provide a 30-day trial to the end customers through that. My information is available and will basically be available as part of the slides, so you can contact me. And you can see our website and how to become a partner is on the Rackspace.com partner sheet. And just kind of as a quick recap, how does Rackspace support Citrix opportunities and the CSA community? One of the things we believe we really provide you is an ability to accelerate time to implementation and time to revenue with your customers. Really address kind of the approval cycle for CapEx if your partners are actually your end customers having to buy the CapEx, and actually for you as a partner eliminating a potential liquidity trap where you're having to put all your money into infrastructure versus driving revenue from services at the customer base. I'll touch again on the expanded sales capability, the ability to use our team as an extension of your own sales team so that we take on some of the burden of the pricing and proposal generation. Obviously, the faster we get to market, the more rapidly Citrix gets to sell licenses and get them consumed. Trusted advisors, power of Citrix and Rackspace to succeed, and fanatical support. And I'll touch on that one more time. One of the things that's very important as you look at hosting partners is the ability to know that you've got a live body and a team ready to back you up 24/7, 365, which is really the unique aspect of Rackspace. And I'll poke a little fun at some of our competitors that are actually now owned by phone companies and would ask anybody on the line, when's the last time you got good service from your phone company? So with that, I'd like to introduce one of our early adopters of the hosted virtual desktop platform within Rackspace, Chris Lantrip, CEO of Cyberlink ASP. And he'll walk through a little of his experience, his relationship with Rackspace, and hopefully I think you'll find it interesting and supportive as a reference as to why we'd like to have you as partners for Rackspace.
Thank you, Jim. That was great. And some of this may be redundant. My name is Chris Lantrip with Cyberlink ASP. I've also got Mason Cooper with me. He's our Vice President of Information Technology. And I'm going to expand a little bit on what Jim said and kind of take you through who we are, what we do, our relationship with Citrix, our relationship with Rackspace, and as a Citrix service provider, why it was important for us to expand outside of a data center that we owned and operated for quite some time until we began to collaborate with Rackspace around the time of that synergy announcement that Jim alluded to earlier. So with that, I'm just going to dive right in and kind of touch on high level just who each of us are. Obviously, Jim went through the Rackspace component of that, and Jim, also I'd encourage you to jump in at any time too to expand on some of the Rackspace components of this. Rackspace obviously has a global presence and does a lot of things that are extremely unique in the market. There's a lot of brand equity there. When we've been in the hosted virtual desktop business for quite some time, since before it was called the cloud, and really over the last 3 years we've seen just a rapid adoption and acceptance of the technology. I like to, it's really neat to me because we see people that you would have never expected to have knowledge of and be shopping for hosted virtual desktops that are now adopting the model, from plumbers to environmental cleanup companies. I mean, you name it. This technology, the Citrix technology, the Rackspace component of the infrastructure, as you guys know as CSPs, when you look at the composition of user cost, as Jim spoke to before, the infrastructure component of that, you have your Citrix licenses and the Microsoft stack of licenses, support, people, margin, that kind of thing. Having Rackspace plug in to that infrastructure piece is an extreme mitigation of the cost that we incur as a CSA to own and maintain and then profitably expand our data centers. When we were approached by Rackspace and Citrix and kind of started this collaboration, for us as a CSA, it was a major game changer. It opened us up to a lot of great opportunities. So as Jim went over, Rackspace obviously, a couple 100,000 customers, lots of employees, a global presence. You look at us, we have literally today thousands of users all over the United States and international that we host today. We've got our staff is built around a very deep Citrix knowledge. I mean, we are a Citrix shop. That's what we do, is make applications work inside of Citrix and serve that back up as a hosted virtual desktop. Today, hundreds of companies have entrusted us with all of their data, which also coincidentally resides in the Rackspace data center footprint. And we offer fanatical support all the way to the desktop. So if anything comes up in that desktop, a user can't print, they can't scan, the application has an issue, anything at all, patches, updates, you name it, any time of the day or night, whatever it is, you pick up the phone and you're going to get desktop support from our call center that we own and operate in Dallas. This is our data center footprint. We have data centers in Dallas, Chicago, and London. Obviously, we utilize the Rackspace footprint for that. In addition, we have, as I alluded to before, we have a call center that we own and operate that's based in Dallas as well, that's always available for, as we like to call it, fanatical support all the way to the desktop. So a little bit more about us, you know, as we offer this hosted virtual desktop and encourage you guys to do the same. It's a turnkey implementation. You know, a lot of these customers out there have servers already. They have data already. What we'll do is we'll go into that existing environment they have. We'll export all that data, map the drives exactly the way they are, reload the third-party applications, rebuild the databases, export all the mail to PST, rebuild it in the Exchange 2010 environment on our side, and then hand the end user a username and password so that when they log in, it looks, feels, acts, and has the same familiarity of the network that they had before. Only now it's available from any device. They can see the same thing at home, on the iPad, on the iPhone, as you guys all know. As mentioned before, we are a Citrix shop. You know, we get, I tell people this all the time, you know, we have thousands of users in the field today in the United States and some international. We get, anytime anybody comes out with a product that competes with Citrix or looks, feels, and acts like Citrix, they come and knock on our door. And being a technology company, you know, we've got a bank of folks that are always interested in trying out what the new toy is and seeing how it works. We have found nothing in the marketplace that can even come remotely close to the performance and scale of Citrix in a multi-tenant environment. You know, 99% of the applications out there that you guys are going to encounter are going to be compatible in Citrix. They're going to work great. They're going to work better than they did on the local machine. And your customers are going to be thrilled. I mean, when we've tested them all, we've tried them all, we've used them all, and we've been using Citrix for close to a decade, and we'll never stop. And as you guys know out there, all of you are obviously educated in this regard. Citrix is compatible with any device. I think you go to the Citrix website, it's quite literally tens of thousands of devices that you can run these applications on. So with that, I want to segue into, for us as a CSA, what, you know, we owned and operated our own data center for quite some time. So you know, why go into Rackspace? Obviously, there's a great deal. I'll hit on these bullets and then kind of elaborate on our situation. Obviously, the Rackspace has a great deal of infrastructure expertise, a great relationship with Citrix, which is important to us. Speed, reduced time to market. You know, we had this data center in Dallas. I've got it staffed. I've got people there to swap out drives, to do this and that when things break. When we looked at other, as the IaaS phenomenon started to become more prevalent in the middle half of the last decade, you know, we looked at that and we just weren't comfortable with the level of support and how quickly drives could be changed, how quickly we could get a human being relative to having our own staff there. It just really made us uncomfortable because our customers were really accustomed to being able to have their desktop at any time without any issue. It's just always there. You know, it's like flipping on the lights. It just works. It's just there. And that really worried us. So, you know, we kind of found ourselves trapped there in Dallas because it really wasn't cost feasible for us to go build a data center in Chicago, for instance, hire people and go through all of the machinations there until we met Rackspace. And I hate to sound too salesy here, but the commitment that they have to fanatical support that Jim mentioned earlier, we've drank the Kool-Aid. We use it. We use it in the footprint that you saw earlier, Dallas, Chicago, and London, and it's real and it works. And it's much more cost effective than going out and capitalizing a different geographic market than what you're in today. If you're going to use NetScalers and you're going to take this thing global, you obviously have to be in various geographic locations. Now, you're going to go build that yourself, or you're going to go with somebody like Rackspace that you can trust, that has the expertise. Going further down the slide, as you look at the unparalleled resources, hardware experts, storage experts, multiple DBAs, these guys are a phone call away. I mean, Rackspace has an extremely deep expertise in SQL, Oracle, all of the things that you're going to encounter to make these applications work. You have a partner in Rackspace that is intrinsic to their service. It's innate to what they do. And and I'll talk about this in the next slide. I like to refer to it as off-balance sheet financing. I mean, these guys are there. You don't have to go hire them. I mean, we've competed on opportunities where we needed Oracle expertise, and we couldn't compete in these opportunities without that Oracle expertise. Well, Rackspace has it. In a different environment, you're not going to find that with any other infrastructure as a service guy. Pick up the phone at 1 in the morning and call somebody else on that Gartner Magic Quadrant chart that Jim showed you earlier, and see if you get somebody on the telephone. If you're going to provide hosted virtual desktops as a CSA, fanatical support is part and parcel to the product offering. You've got to be able to have these people, that are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all over the world. They have a problem. They're going to call you. And you, in turn, have to have an infrastructure partner that's equally as responsive. That's why it worked for us. You go into the CapEx versus OpEx. I'm a reformed accountant. You look at, prior to our relationship with Rackspace, we capitalized all of our infrastructure. As growth starts to really take off, as you guys know, your cash on your balance sheet starts to diminish as you start funding more and more growth. And you look at the other side of that equation on the OpEx. I like to think as Rackspace as off-balance sheet financing, and I'm able to match all of my revenue to costs. It's the beauty of the cloud, so to speak, extrapolated all the way back to my income statement. So I'm able to have, and you guys can duplicate this too, obviously get with Jim and the Citrix folks after this, but you're able to almost have a cloud type of income statement to where you have this JIT model that's just in time, where the resources are there and carried by Rackspace, and you don't have to go out and capitalize a tremendous amount of assets that you don't necessarily need right now, and you can put revenue, paying customers against infrastructure instantaneously. And from a financial management standpoint, I can't tell you how extremely valuable that is to a rapidly growing young technology company. The CapEx model, you wait, rack, and stack. You call Dell, you get a quote from your guy, you order it, he sends it, you get a big box at the data center. Your folks rack it, stack it, and this, obviously with Rackspace, somebody else handles all that. On the CapEx side of the equation, your DC costs are entirely, your data center costs are entirely absorbed by you. There's no economy in the Rackspace environment with multiple data centers all over the world and multiple customers that you're amortizing that cost across. It's obviously cheaper in that regard. We have to maintain, at your own data center, DC expertise, data center expertise in addition to the Citrix expertise. And what I really love about the Rackspace model is we're able to devote more resources to the Citrix product line. That's our bread and butter. That's where we thrive. That's where we excel, is doing really well with Citrix. We love the product, we love the people, and we love making applications work, do well, and perform well in Citrix. And the more that we can invest in that expertise, the less I have to invest in somebody that understands L530 208 volt power whips. That doesn't make me any money. Citrix guys, Citrix knowledge is where I see, as we go to the last bullet, an enhancement to my internal rate of return. So for every dollar that you invest as a CSA in your Citrix knowledge and in your Citrix license, the return is order of magnitude greater than what you're going to invest in what I consider personally to be a sinkhole in owning and operating your own data set. So as I transition to the next slide, this is the way I like to think of it. You know, I kind of list on the left the things that we're proud of and the things that Rackspace brings to the table for us. Obviously, we have a deep Citrix experience, fanatical desktop support, you know, complete and total desktop integration. Like I said before, we duplicate the environment that you have today. We have guys on our team that will show these end users how to use, we'll walk through the downloading of the Citrix receiver, make sure everything's set up, hand them a username and password, and they go. You know, when people, in the old days, people would always want to come tour our data center. I want to see all the blinking lights. And it's funny because today, once we tell people we're with Rackspace, you know, we had a customer that we were trying to win to our service, and they wanted to come to San Antonio and tour the Rackspace headquarters and didn't have the slightest interest in coming to see our data center. It's almost like once we tell them we're with Rackspace, well, that settles that, and we don't have to tour our data center. So there's a tremendous amount of trust and brand equity that's there. Rackspace has a global presence, fanatical data center support, as we alluded to before, and a trust factor that is just through the roof, unlimited resources. And then this last point, lead sharing, that Jim got into before. Rackspace does have a landing page there on their website. And, you know, a lot of people refer to the vendor-customer relationship as a quote-unquote partnership. Well, this is a partnership, and I would encourage each of you guys to try this out for yourself. Rackspace does an unparalleled job in the industry of generating demand, of generating resources to grow your business. This is not you know, just salesy presentation on my part. It's real, and they have people every day that are interested in hosted virtual desktops, and they have partners like myself, and we've been involved with this partner, with this initiative and this collaboration since its inception, and we've seen it work firsthand tremendously. So I can't say enough good things about our decision a few years ago to partner with Rackspace as a Citrix CSA, and I would encourage each of you guys to do the same. We've got this last slide. As these come together, you look at those, each of those bullets from each company, and when you combine them, it's extremely powerful. They gave us, as a CSA, resources, credibility, and the other things that you see there on that slide that there is absolutely no way we could have achieved on our own. And we'll always be grateful for that. Rackspace has helped to take us to a place as a business that I feel we could have never gotten to on our own. And so I just can't say enough good things about these guys. And hopefully I would encourage each of you to try it out. Take the demo, take the test drive, call Jim, buy a server, and set it up and see for yourself.
Thank you, Chris. Matt, I think we'll turn it back over to you and hopefully open it up to Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely, Jim. Thanks a lot. And actually, we do have a question, a few questions that came in. One was about an on-premise offering. So did you mention on-premise offering, or were you more talking about how the on-premise infrastructure links with Rackspace? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, what's happening today, Rackspace, through our OpenStack initiative, actually we have teams that will actually help people kind of evolve into the new open standards for the cloud. So we have a group called Rackspace Cloud Builders that have the opportunity to go on-premise and actually help from a consulting standpoint with on-premise sales as they evolve. Also, our friends at Citrix have their cloud stack. So you're seeing more and more evolution within our business of being able to recognize that there are people that still want to build on the on-premise, but we view that anyone that builds in an open standard environment on-premise will actually have the opportunity to capitalize on hosted and or cloud extensions of their business in a very large way. So that's what I was referring to.
Okay. We had another question come in. How do you scale or manage user-side bandwidth needs? So do you require certain internet connectivity or dedicated access depending on the user count?
If I understand the question correctly, I'm going to turn this over to Brian Cadell, who's our SE from Rackspace, that's been involved with many of our implementations, so may ask for a little bit more clarification, but I think you're really talking about the networking bandwidth, access to the internet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and that's a pretty broad topic, to be honest with you, because it can mean a lot of different things. Because speaking in terms of specific applications that need to talk to back-end systems or databases, and depending on where those physically sit, compared to where the front-end Citrix site is compared to where the user's at, and the number and what they're actually doing, that can mean a lot of different things. So probably further qualification on number of users, what they're actually accessing, and what back-end systems or dependencies it needs to talk to in order for it to function. So I'll give you an example where we had a large customer out of our Dallas-Fort Worth area. We were kind of the Citrix front end, but they were also, a lot of the systems from an application perspective had to connect to SAP or Oracle or other systems that were not housed at a Rackspace data center. And so that became a real touchy subject around branch repeaters and other optimization from a WAN perspective, or put in a pipe connecting our data center to another data center that was in close proximity within the DFW area. So I don't know if that specifically answers your question, because it really depends on the scenario and the applications that are factored in there.
Yeah, that's a good answer. From the Citrix side, it's a similar kind of thing. It's not a set rule of thumb. It really is a case-by-case basis in terms of bandwidth or internet connectivity. I had another question here. So can you add users quickly, and do you provide any type of failover?
Absolutely. This is Chris with CyberLink. I'll take that one. And certainly we can add users, delete users in a matter of minutes. Once we have what we like to refer to as the gold image, it takes literally no time to republish different users. And I'll let Mason expand on that a little bit about how we do that.
Sure. We rely heavily on Citrix provisioning services, and that's been one of our keys to bringing customers online quickly and give them a good, stable desktop. We'll go through a process of getting their configuration, exactly the way they want it. And once we've locked that into a standard image, we're able to kind of grow with them if they need to, obviously expand quickly. We're able to just, it's a matter of bringing up additional resources. We've had customers that have end up being displaced by things like hurricanes, and they end up having to disperse their whole office and double or triple their user load in a matter of a couple of days, and we're obviously able to accommodate them, and that's something they're usually pretty thankful for. That adds a lot of consistency to us in terms of making sure that they don't have any sort of lingering problems. Obviously, with the systems being reset to a factory state every single time they reboot, there's very few times when you have a machine that kind of runs wild and does some unexpected things.
Okay, great. I think actually we had a question came in just before you started talking about do you support Citrix provisioning servers? So I think we got the answer to that. But there's go ahead.
That would come at a strong recommendation. Trying to do this the old-fashioned way, where you end up even with the old sysprep imaging and sysprep processes, is way too slow compared to what you can get out of provisioning services. It is almost a required component now.
So there's actually another question, though, and this is from an asker that's actually trialing AWS and trying to kind of weigh the costs and benefits. And it looks like AWS has zones. So when you're dealing with clients out, in the UK or in different geographies, the location of data can be an issue. So does Rackspace have anything where there's different zones in terms of handling the data?
Yeah, so if you want to consider like AWS has availability zones that get replicated between data centers and potentially different geographies, Rackspace does not have that today. So if you're being hosted out of the UK, that data is going to reside just in the UK. We don't create any kind of automated availability zones, whether you're public, private cloud, that is going to replicate outside that region, and that's the same for US or Hong Kong.
And actually, I was going to say that actually becomes a question. Most people want their data to reside in country, so that's what you're providing, right?
Right.
And there's always the option too for that particular CSA to roll their own solution, keeping that data. Obviously, the cost to host their data in 2 different facilities is a heck of a lot cheaper to do it through Rackspace than to try and stand up just 2 redundant data centers. So we do the same thing. We roll our own solution. Even with provisioning services, there's a huge benefit there with keeping a replicated copy of their image, even if it's not live consuming resources in the other data centers. It's available. So if obviously we had a major issue that happened, we can take those images and spin them right up in another data center.
Okay. We're really rapidly approaching the top of the hour here, so we're going to close it off there. I just want to definitely thank Jim Wittry and Chris Lantrip for having the webinar today. We really appreciate it. This has been really great information for our CSPs. And as I said before, this will be recorded, and we will be posting it in the CSP Toolkit, and you'll see a link to all the registrants for the webinar. You'll get a link to this as well. So once again, thanks, everyone, and we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you, Matt.
Thanks,
you
Matt.
guys are great hosts.
Have a good morning.
Thanks.